with a Richard Towler on a controversial provisional pole, because lots of people are flaming that he cut the grid, cut the final corner, sorry, but the grid's just making their way round to get going, so we'll soon see 60 laps of action coming right up now, Tom.
Yep, what's happened is that iRacing has brought Gregor Huttu to an undisclosed location here in the States. He's not racing on his normal machine or his normal equipment, so the big story of this race is that actual Gregor Huttu will be starting in 10th today. So let's run through the top 10 of the grid. Richard Towler on pole, Ilkka Happila in second, Sean Purdy third, Derek Wood fourth, Dion Vergers fifth, Darren Marsh sixth, Mark Payne seventh, Ian Lake eighth, Brad Davies ninth, and Gregor Huttu 10th as the cars come around on the final turn number 13 to take the grid. It also looks like, I believe it was Dom Duhan is going to be taking the grid from, it's going to be Ben Cornett. Check that, will be starting from pit lane. So here goes the start. Richard Towler gets away into turn one. Looks like Ilkka Happila and Sean Purdy fighting for second place. And so Ilkka Happila now in second place, Sean Purdy in third, Derek Wood now brings up the fourth position. So as we continue to work out a couple of issues here, it looks like our producers are backing it up just a little bit so you guys can see the start once again. But as we run through here at the completion of lap one, Richard Towler is out in the lead. Ilkka Happila second place. Ilkka Happila the fastest during this afternoon's practice with a 1:13.3. Richard Towler couldn't manage much better than a 1:13.4. But Ilkka Happila and Team Orion with Ilkka and Sean Purdy absolutely beginning to close the gap between Richard Towler and some of the other Team Redline drivers.
Just a couple of issues happened right down the back of the field into turn one. Matt Santel was a victim down at turn one on their very opening lap, but as everyone has got back underway and is running through the field again normally.
So this is a 60-lap race, but they're going to have to take 2 stops to do it. It looks like the fuel window is anywhere from like 25 to 27 laps. I was talking to Richard Towler yesterday. He says he's having to run basically a 5-speed gearbox for this. So to explain what he's got to do is that this track is a complete drafting track. Now, while you're in the lead, you don't necessarily need to worry about that. But he's got a 5-speed gearbox with that 6th gear only being used when he hits that draft. As we will see as Ilkka Happila and Sean Purdy draft each other around turn 13. So once again, we apologize for missing the intro there, but we should be back live now. Thank you very much to all the team at PSR TV for making this work. So to finish that thought, Ilkka Happila and Sean Purdy, you are able to draft around this final turn 12, 13 down to turn 1 complex, even from as much as a second back. Without the draft, you're only capable of about 180 miles an hour, but with the draft, you're up to about 184 miles an hour. It's a huge difference. So let's go back and take a look at Gregor Huttu in 10th. Actually almost being overtaken by the Ryan Murray car. The Team Podium Assault, that red and black machine, carrying a new livery this week in homage to the Inside Sim Racing team that has done the Team Podium Assault so much financial aid to those guys, or at least apologize for my loud microphone there. So Gregor Huttu, as we watch Gregor Huttu circulate around with Ryan Murray right on his tail, having to do something that he's really never done before.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever really seen him in the midfield or actually have to deal with any kind of traffic anywhere at all. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how he deals with cars up ahead and behind him. But as we go into lap 4 of 60, Richard Towler currently leads from Ilkka Happila second, Sean Purdy is third, Then there is a gap back to Derek Wood, and Dion Burgess is all over the back of him in 5, with Marsh 6, Lake 7, Davies 8, Payne 9, and Huttu 10, with Ryan Murray with his new livery getting very racy behind. And it's pretty much going into groups of 3 or 4 up and down the field, where they're just kind of trying to draft each other down that home straight, which is really where the best place for overtaking is, down into turn 1.
So as I was talking to a couple of the drivers in practice last night, as I was watching about 5 or 6 of the drivers last night during practice, what they were saying is that it would probably break up into little groups of 3 or 4 cars that are able to draft. If somebody even makes just a little mistake coming off of turn 11 to get into the draft, they could fall out of that draft. But you could see little groups of cars form that are capable of drafting each other and getting that extra 5-mile-per-hour push around 12 and 13. Really makes a big difference.
Definitely, and also what other big thing about this track is your brakes, of course, are going to be a real deciding factor down into turn 1, and also down, I think it's turn possibly 9, down before you get the little flick-flack chicane, because they're really the 2 places to overtake. And if you're hot on the brakes into there, you can make all kinds of wonderful, magical overtaking happen.
Yeah, that's turn 8, I believe, down at the end of Holman straightaway is what you're talking about. This is a Herman Tilke designed track, something that some people have some very mixed feelings about, as does my booth mate, Mr. Simon.
I don't think it is Herman Tilke, but Herman Tilke has pasted himself across of many tracks in the world, which really should be stopped. But yes, I feel that this track is very much Mickey Mouse, as Jaroslav Honzik, car number 25, is in pit lane, and I don't know why, so maybe he's run into trouble somewhere. But yeah, it's a Mickey Mousey circuit. It's not one that really pushes drivers to kind of explore the limits of the world, which is why its setup is very much kind of key to the circuit, because you've got to negotiate all of the silly little Mickey Mouse corners and then still have the power to get down the straights. As here comes Hapler onto Towler.
Yeah, so let's jump up front, Mr. Director. It looks like Hapler is now right underneath the gearbox of Richard Towler. Richard Towler really having to defend his position into turn 1 as they head now into turn 2. Ilka Hapler fighting for his new daddyship, now the father of a baby boy, healthy baby boy, who has not actually had a name yet. So he came a couple of weeks premature, but let's see if we can come up with a good name for Ilka in the chat room today. Join us at psrtv.com, and let's see if we can get Ilka's baby boy a new name.
Gregor Hapler.
Up front, we also see Sean Purdy, Team Orion, secondary driver of Team Orion to Ilka Hapler. Team Orion carrying quite a few cars in this race this week.
Big shout out actually to 4th place Derek Wood. I've never seen him run so high before.
One note on the Hapler story: last week or 2 weeks ago, Ben Cornett and him were tied. That's Ben Cornett and he. Sorry, I'm not an English major. Ilka Hapler were tied. Ilka's fantastic showing 2 weeks ago over Ben Cornett, who could only do as well as 9th, got Ilka Hapler solidly into 3rd place, but that doesn't mean that Ben Cornett is not but 33 points behind Ilka in the point standings for the championship.
Gregor Huttu in car number 2 has just blasted past Mark Payne for 9th position. That's the first overtake I think I've ever seen Gregor Huttu do.
Gregor Huttu, actually, once again, if you missed it at the start, is actually here visiting in the United States by the invitation of iRacing.com or iRacing staff to do some sort of secret covert operation that we're not exactly sure what it is, but we have it on good authority that he is running now on different equipment than what he is used to, even in an undisclosed bunker somewhere near Merle Haggard's ranch, I believe. But he is struggling a little bit, was struggling in qualifying, only managed to qualify 10th. So Gregor Huttu has his hands full. Sounds like Jake the Steak is off somewhere, back in 13th place. Go back and take a look at Jake. Doesn't look like he's... Oh, there's a big off on turn 5, or turn 4 rather. Big off at turn 4. Can't tell who it is. It looks like car number 12, possibly Mark Payne. Yes, podium assault member Mark Payne. A couple of other drivers there. Let's see if we can get the word from Chuck Johnson on who else is involved in that. Take a look at quick replay here. Looks like car number 27, Matteo Calistani, and the number 12 Mark Payne car came together, probably under braking in turn 4.
Well, Matteo Calistani's no stranger to getting himself involved. And actually the midfield is really getting quite nice and jam-packed. Mark Payne's kind of stuck himself back in with Gerd Froer ahead and George Sandman behind. And actually the whole of the midfield really just running in one ginormous train with some names further up the field more than what we normally see them. So it's good to see a kind of role reversal of fortunes for some drivers here today.
So on lap number 9, let's take a run down the order here. Richard Towler in first, but right behind him is the second place of Ilka Happala. Teammate Sean Purdy right behind them. Derek Wood bringing up 4th position. Dion Vergers rounding out the top 5. Darren Marsh in 6th place. Ian Lake, another podium assault driver, in 7th. Brad Davies in 8th. And Gregor Huttu is now past Blake Townend for 9th.
And just behind them, just rounding out the top 20, you've got Ryan Murray, then Richard Crozier, Florian Goddard, Mauro Bisegli is 14, Jake is 15 with Ray Alfala 16, David Seroy 17, Andrea Boldi up to 18, that's good for Andrea, Alice Simunek 19, and Scott Michaels in 20th, but this looks like something's going on for 2nd and 3rd position with Ilka Happala. And Sean Purdy was jinking out from behind Happala. Happala covered the line well, but Purdy not really feeling the need to attack his own teammate. And surely there's going to be some kind of Ferrari-esque tactics maybe going on there to ensure that they don't end up taking each other off. Of course, it's a 60-lap race, and we're only lap 10 into it, so there's plenty of time left to go. And but something tells me that Purdy is faster than Happala, who's possibly faster than Towler, and the three really in a kind of straight fight would be in a reverse of fortunes.
Well, I would like to have Frosty Sinclair here in the booth with us today. Sean Purdy, we need to talk a little bit about the resurgence of Team Orion, as Sean Purdy and Ilka Happala both beginning to leapfrog a lot of the other Team Redline drivers that are the teammates of Gregor Huttu. Today, Ben Cornett is actually only 6 points ahead of Sean Purdy in the overall championship standings, and it looks like, at least the way they're running now, that Sean Purdy could leapfrog, and it would be Team Redline up front, ex-Team Redline Richard Towler in 2nd place, and then the 2 Orion teammates of Ilka Happala and Sean Purdy bringing up the 3rd and 4th positions in the points, and that's a very good thing for Frosty Sinclair.
Just running down the back of the field, John Prather has been our first retirement, and our only retirement so far this race. That's unfortunate end there for John Prather, leaving us with just 33 cars remaining.
Let's jump back up front and once again take a look at the Richard Towler Ilka Happala battle. It looks like Ilka has dropped back just a little bit from Richard Towler. He was just 2 laps ago, right up underneath his gearbox as they headed down the front straightaway. Right now, negotiating that 8, 9, 10 complex down at the end of Holman straightaway. Right there at turn 11 is very, very important. As we say, there's always one important turn before a long straightaway. I think somebody in some book that I read about racing said a racetrack is a series of straightaways interrupted by the pesky turns. But you got to get a good run off turn 11 to make it up to the full 184 miles an hour. As I take a look at the speed of Ilka Happala from in car, 182 is what he was doing right before braking, right behind Richard Towler. So not quite in that slipstream, but if he can drop back just a little bit with Sean Purdy, they may be able to team up just a little bit.
Just looking at the last lap times that they were done, Richard Towler done a 1:14.638, Ilka Hapler a 1:14.597, and Sean Purdy a 1:14.441. So Purdy the fastest of the three last time by. And I think if you could only just get a sniff of a certain dive through, he will have Hapler quite happily. As we take a look at Darren Marsh down in 6th position, having a look at Dion Vergers, who's been so busy all over the back of Derek Wood. He's driving a stupendous race up in 4th. And Derek Wood I've seen run wide in a couple of corners, but has still been able to always keep the perfect defensive line. You can see there Vergers just ahead of Darren Marsh, taking much tighter lines. And he's much tighter around this final corner as well. As is that Wood peeling off there into the pits?
It's been peeling off, yes. That's lap number 12, so... Oh,
early.
I see what he did there. Oh, that's going to be interesting. He cut down there on the cut that final turn.
I've seen quite a few people do that throughout the races. Oh, look at Darren Marsh there having a go at Dion Vergers, and that will give Derek Wood some space. But yes, I've seen quite a few people do this, not just in practice, also in qualifying, and now again in the race as Woods runs wide there. I wonder what the stewards will deem that to be later on, because quite a few people have been nipping down there for a cup of tea as they go through the final turn.
Yeah, and I believe in the chat room before the race, what we were watching as far as the text chat within the game itself, some people were accusing Richard Towler of doing that during the qualifying session. So I wonder if this is some sort of, we see as we watch Dion Vergers, another Team Orion driver, stick his nose down there to see if he could get inside Derek Wood into turn 8, cannot make it stick. But a couple of the drivers were accusing Richard Towler of doing that during qualifying. I wonder if this is a tit-for-tat response to that if he's allowed to do it during qualifying, the stewards are going to have to address that. But I think if it were me, I would probably still insist on remaining legal. Insist on remaining legal to make sure that the penalty can't be added to every single lap that I do. I don't necessarily agree with what he's doing, but I certainly understand the rationale for it.
No, I don't. It leaves a slightly lemony taste in my mouth. However, the leading three of Towler, Hapler and Purdy are coming up to their first lapping of cars, and that's Robinson Shields, who's taking part in his first Drivers' World Championship Road Edition Grand Prix, and is doing a fine job down in 31st, minding his own business and keeping himself out of trouble's way. And it'll be interesting to see how the leading trio deal with that.
Right, as we jump back on up front with the Ilka Hapler Richard Towler battle. Looks like Ilka Hapler and Richard Towler during practice last night, they were pretty evenly matched. I was pretty impressed at the resurgence since Ilka has put down his camera operation duties here at PSR TV and devoted full time to his racing craft. He's really done well this season. I'm pretty happy with his performance, as is he. Let's go back and take a look at the Gregor Huttu situation. Looks like Gregor Huttu is now all by himself in 9th place.
Absolutely,
like
Ian Lake and Brad Davies have dropped him, and he's pulled enough clear from Blake Townsend for Townsend not to actually be in his slipstream anymore. So it looks like it could potentially be quite lonely for Gregor now.
Make sure you jump on to the PSR TV. Follow us over on Twitter at twitter.com/PSR TV. Definitely go to, as we jump on board Brad Davies, jump to PSRTV.com and go to the archive section and download any of the past races that you have not seen.
That's always a good way to spend a weekend.
Oh yeah, and if you knew the weather that was going on down here in North Carolina, you would wonder why I'm here at all. It is beautiful on the East Coast, that is for sure.
Just don't tell the missus. So we're on lap 15, and potentially this is coming up towards pit stop territory. Richard Towler currently leads as they cross the line to start lap 16 by only 0.4 seconds from Sean Purdy. You can see the main three in your screens all at once together. They're coming up to somebody by the looks of it. I thought I saw a flash. Nope, maybe not. However, those three pulled away from Derek Wood, Darren Marsh, who's got past Dion Verges there. Verges has dropped back from Marsh, so Marsh into 5, Verges to 6. Ian Lake and Brad Davies have been nose to tail the entire race. Brad Davies will be annoyed now, smelling the exhaust pipe of the car in front, with Huttu and Townend rounding out the top 10. And Ryan Murray in his new levered car running a rather lovely 11th. And one of his sponsors, of course, is his model girlfriend, which I'm sure will give plenty of people lots of envious green eyes.
That is Rachel Baiocco. Absolutely. That is Rachel, BAIOCCO.com. RachelBaiocco.com. Go check it out.
Don't take tissues.
So as we take a look, let's jump back at the Derek Wood battle one more time. Looks like Darren Marsh got that draft heading into turn number 1. Derek Wood still cutting that corner in turn 4. We are potentially looking at a ruling. I don't know if it's going to come during the race or if it'll come after. But Derek Wood running in the number 4 position behind Sean Purdy by about 7 seconds. So, while it looks like he may think that he's picking up time, it's really losing a lot of time to Sean Purdy lap after lap, and able to get Darren Marsh reeling in 5th position, which means that Dion Vergers is close behind in 6th.
Brad Davies has now passed, actually, Ian Lake for 7th as well. So Davies, obviously hearing that he was sick of the exhaust pipes of the car in front, is now going to be homing down on this little trio for 4, 5 and 6 as well.
Derek Wood hails from Lincoln, Nebraska here in the United States. Currently running, let's see if I can check on my list here. Derek Wood running 15th in the points. I don't know if I would jeopardize that with what he's doing now. Oh, and it looks like, yes, Darren Marsh gets by on turn 1, but Derek Wood's going to put up a fight into turn 2 and bumps him. Oh, there's a big mess there. In turn 3, it looks like all 3 of those drivers, Derek Wood, Darren Marsh, and Dion Vergers, all involved with it. Let's make sure Brad Davies and that crew, Ian Lake crew behind him. So let's take a look here at the replay. It looked clearly like Darren Marsh got past Derek Wood. Darren Marsh may have just lost a little speed. Derek Wood punted him off. Darren Marsh got turned sideways. Dion Vergers just hits the whole mess. He was just too close behind, and those 3 are going out for the day.
Yeah, it's not good at all. And I have to say, actually, that was the most clumsiest collection by Dion Verges ever, because he'd already slowed down to a stop practically anyway, and then just kind of went, oh, I'll just quickly leap over the top of the other car. So not the best avoidtive action ever. That's a shame there for Derek Wood, because that was a fantastic start to the race so far.
So it looks like Derek Wood is continuing on. I don't see where Darren Marsh is just yet. Dion Vergers, no. It looks like both of those guys have escaped out, maybe sitting in the pits trying to get some sort of repair done. So Derek Wood is actually now being scored back in the 8th position. And one thing that
awful, though.
Yeah, one thing that came out just the last build was the aerodynamic effects the aerodynamic damage does have an effect on the aerodynamic downforce. So Derek Wood's car being all bent up is going to really cause some handling issues for him. One side note of that is now Gregor Huttu went from 9th up to 6th position in that exchange. As I watched Derek Wood letting Ryan Murray by for 8th place. So Derek Wood obviously having some problems with his bent-up car. Yes, and he's pulling off. Yeah, Derek Wood pulling off on Holman straightaway down between turn 7 and 8 and has escaped out for the day. So we still don't know what the ruling is from the stewards on this, on Derek Wood cutting that corner, but I think at this point it's really moot, but I would imagine there will be some sort of ruling on that in the future.
And you never know quite if if there potentially can be something carried over to the next race. We don't know how the in-game marshals will work.
So as we circulate now, the field's had enough of a chance to come back around the start-finish straightaway. As I watch Richard Towler, looks like he's coming up on the Matt Sintel car to lap him. Let's run through the field, Simon, if you would. Let's start with the top 10. Richard Towler is still in the lead. Ilka Happel being chased by Ilka Happel, Sean Purdy, Brad Davies, Ian Lake now up to 5th, Gregor Huttu 6th, Blake Townend 7th, Ryan Murray, the kingpin of the team podium assault, in 8th, Richard Crozier having a great race in 9th place, and Florian Goddard in 10th.
From 11 down, we've got Ray Alfalo in 11. That's the highest I've seen him for a long while. Jake Sturjoys is 12. Mauro Bisele is 13 and avoiding trouble. David Siroy is 14 and doing the same. Jan Ziliakis, the highest I've seen him for a while, 15. We've Gerd Hoffer 16. Scott Michaels, once again showing good form, in 17th and avoiding trouble. Daniel Almeida is 18th and holding off a recovering Ben Cornett, 19, who had to start from pit lane after missing the start because he was too busy chatting away in the chat box. Mark Payne rounds out 20th.
In 21st is Les Simonek. George Sandman is 22nd. Milos Milikovic in 23rd. The mighty Matt Sintel in 24th. Andrea Baldi in 25th. Paul Richards in 26th. Actually, from Matt Sintel on back, so there are only 23 cars on the lead lap. These cars are all a lap down. Aurelio Leonetti is now in 27th. Derek Wood has escaped out. I think all of these drivers are now out. Derek Wood, Robinson Shields, a pro driver for the first time, making his debut in this track. Somebody whose name I can't pronounce. It looks like Olaslav Hanazik. Darren Marsh in 31st. Dion Vergers in 32nd. Matteo Calistani and John Prather bringing up the rear in 33rd and 34th. And let's take a look. Ben Cornett, we have a word that Ben Cornett and the number 6 car is in trouble with a couple of the cars. It looks like Ella Simonek, yes. Ales Simonek is in the 14 car has escaped out. Yep, Ales is out. Who else was involved with that?
George Sandman was the other man caught up in that, who dropped quite out of trouble as well. And that's again the fateful turn 1, turn 2 chicane. Sandman just kind of collecting everyone else who was busy spinning and crashing into each other. So obviously people obviously they know turn 1, turn 2 is the place to do the overtaking, but obviously you've got to make the right judgment to make sure that you've weighed up going a complete smack into someone's rear against actually taking the position. And that's not quite worked out.
We take a look at a replay here of Ben Cornett and Les Simonek and George Sandman getting together in turn number 1. Look at George Sandman able to continue on. George Sandman, one of my heroes from Racer. Actually, a very gentlemanly racer. I've really enjoyed watching his career come around. And now George Sandman, actually, if we watch George Sandman, the number 15 car hitting the pits, I wonder if this is going to be the day for him.
We're starting to get the first couple of people popping into the pits. Daniel Almeida's in the pits, as is George Sandman, who's probably there for more accident damage than everyone else. Quite interestingly, Brad Davies in 4th place is now starting to become under attack by Gregor Huttu, who even when things are going not so good for him, is busy going up the order.
All right, so let's take a look at the number 24, 4th place Brad Davies car getting it close with Gregor Huttu fight. Yes, that's Gregor Huttu now in 5th position. These guys have not pitted yet from what I can tell, but Brad Davies now under pressure from Gregor Huttu, and that's got to be some crazy pressure to deal with. Brad Davies currently leading the Oval Championship as well. Just took it last race 2 races ago over Richard Towler. Richard Towler now in 2nd position in both series, the road course and the oval event here at iRacing, the Drivers' World Championship Series.
Actually, I think we should mention that this, I think, is mathematically possible, although I don't really see it happening today. Gregor Huttu can potentially take this championship today should Richard Towler have an absolute shocker, although it's looking quite nicely for him at the moment, and Huttu grabs a decent result, probably top 5 or higher, because it's really the first time that the season and the championship can really be wrapped up. Of course, we've only got 4 races to go.
And as we were watching that, it looks like Brad Davies hits pit lane for his service, his first 2 services here on lap number 24, this 60-lap race. So we're going to see if any of these guys decide to take heavy loads in this second stint to maximize their the lighter weight car that they would only have to have for their third stint. As a 60-lap race, this race is going to end up being a little uneven now unless you go 20 and 40, and we didn't see any cars that I recall. Maybe some of the back markers went in at lap number 20, but it looks like these are going a little further. Gregor Huttu certainly now out on his own in 4th position with 15 seconds up to the 3rd place of Sean Purdy and 2 full seconds back to Blake Townend in 5th. Probably able to really now get a feel for this alien equipment, or I use that term rather loosely, this equipment that's not his home equipment, now on lap number 24. So hopefully he's beginning to get the hang of it, and we'll turn some fast laps. We'll see if somebody on the PSR TV team can take a look at his times for the next 2 laps to see if he can gain a couple of positions in the pits.
Well, he's just about to cross the line now. Last time around he'd done a 1:15.1. Now he's done a 1:15.0. He needs to blast in 2 to 3 really hot laps, and then maybe even short fuel his car 1 or 2 laps if they really are certain they can't make it on just 1 stop round here. And he should be able to leapfrog Brad Davies through this stop, and that will give him 4th place, which from 10th on the grid isn't a bad haul and not a bad kind of save the disaster race, is it?
It really is not, but let's go back up front here. Richard Towler having to pick through a whole lot of back markers right now. All 3 of these guys, the Towler-Happola-Purdy battle, staying nose to tail, but they are actually in the middle of quite a bit of traffic. Looks like now they're coming up on the John Prather number 19 car, I believe.
It's Mauro Biseglia.
No, check that. That's Maurice Biseglia. So all 3 of them now hitting the pits. Oh, Towler. Oh, and Towler spins. Towler spins on the entrance to the pits as he's trying to slow down with a back marker there. And so Happola and Sean Purdy pass him on the entry to the pits, but now Towler side by side with Sean Purdy. Let's see what happens here. As he was trying to avoid the Robinson Shields car, who was also coming in the pits. Richard Towler had some serious closing speed. Robinson Shields actually on his first debut race here in the World Driving Championship up from the Pro, but Ilkka Happola made it into the pits quite a bit earlier than Richard Towler. Looks like Ilkka Happola gets away. Towler pulls away. Ilkka Happola takes the lead in the picks-up exchange. That one little mistake from Richard Towler cost him the lead. Sean Purdy now out, so all 3 guys have shuffled the order. Ilkka Happola in the lead, Richard Towler second, Sean Purdy third.
Well, the big loser from that really is going to be Sean Purdy, I think, because he's actually dropped further behind. But I think a lot of people that may be busy feeling that they've been wrong done by Richard Towler, who is potentially could be under investigation for cutting in the qualifying session, will say that's a little bit of karma coming round to bite you in the bum.
Right, exactly. The word is from the stewards that there's an accusation that Richard Towler cut the corner during qualifying. So we will see if they make a ruling during the race or if they wait to make a ruling after the race on that. But currently we need to take a look at Ilkka Happola leading his first race this season. Oh, check that. I apologize. He has led 1 other lap, although I don't know when it was. Ilkka Happola leading the Indianapolis race here with the iRacing Drivers World Championship for the road, and is probably very happy to do it as a new father.
Maybe he's got the baby on board and he's using it for ballast.
So as the action heats up here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, PSR TV needs to cut away just for a few minutes. So sit back and watch the race here, and we will be right back. All right, so welcome back. PSR TV's coverage of the Indianapolis Road Course event for the iRacing Drivers World Championship. While we were away, Gregor Huttu hit the pits, actually led half a lap. It was just unbelievable that he can come from 10th position now, or actually he was up to 6th. Led a lap during the pit stop exchange, but now that he is pitted, he is back in 4th position. Ilkka Happila still leads with a half a second gap only on Richard Towler, who's now hit the draft. If we jump up front, Mr. Director, take a look at Richard Towler now cutting to the inside and poking his nose in to the Ilkka Happila car in the lead. Sean Purdy now in 3rd, Huttu, of course, still in 4th place, as we mentioned earlier. Ian Lake in 5th, Blake Townend in 6th, Richard Crozier having a great race in 7th, and the video guru Florian Goddard in 8th position.
Our leading duo of Happler and Towler are coming. Up to Aurelio Leonetti to lap him very shortly. Could go down into turn 1. Why not?
One other side note, Florian Goddard and some of us other contributors to the iRacing TV event. iRacing TV is actually out now for everybody to go take a look at. So if our viewers are interested in some a highlights show and some of the inside scoop on iRacing, go take a look at iRacing.tv and take a look. It's a 50-minute episode. It's actually pretty long, featuring a whole lot of clips from all of the top series of races, and a very good interview with David Phillips, who's a contributor and actually the editor of InRacingNews.com, which is iRacing hybrid site between real-world racing and sim racing. It's news covering all of that. Of course, everybody on the forums is talking about the Williams Formula One car that's actually being released, hopefully, in the next build. And something else that was going on in that in the iRacing TV, I apologize, something going on in my ear. Wyatt Gooden interview, the real-life iRacer who is in the Volkswagen TDI Cup and has actually won a race, I believe, this season. But there's some fantastic footage there for everybody. Make sure you go check it out at iRacing.tv. Certainly check out PSR TV on Twitter at twitter.com/PSRTV, and definitely check out the archives for PSR TV at psrtv.com/archives, and download any of these previous events, both for this event, some of our special events, and some of the Oval events. That actually, I'll plug my Oval boys who come in on Tuesday night at
Here comes Towler. Towler coming down onto the inside into turn 1. No, he thinks better of it. Sorry to cut into you there. He was trying to do the double toe that I was talking about earlier as they come around to lap Milos Miokovic, and didn't quite happen for Towler, but that's the closest that Towler has been yet so far. I am jumping up and down on my proverbial commentator's chair because I think this is going to be an absolute grandstand finish here on lap 31 of 60 here at the Indianapolis Speedway.
There's certainly no doubt that the track that everybody just dislikes the most is the one that's causing or creating some of the best racing that we've seen all season. There's no runaway victory here for Gregor Huttu during this event, and we see some fantastic nose-to-tail racing from Richard Towler and all of the two Team Orion boys, Ilkka Happila and Sean Purdy. Keep in mind that I think what we should do is come up with I'm coming up with the name called for Ilka's new baby called Lead Lap. Lead Lap Happila.
Hip Hop Happila, as here comes Towler again. Happila feeling the desperate need to go defensive. Here comes Towler though, down on the outside. He's got half a car length alongside. Can he break that a little bit later? Yes, he can. Side by side into turn 1. Happila tries to hold on around the outside, but Towler pushes him wide enough and takes the inside line for turn 2. And that is a overtaking manoeuvre from Richard Towler to take the lead of the Indianapolis Grand Prix here on iRacing.
That was a fantastic move, and you could see Ilkka Happila really sort of gave him room. I think he was there to live to fight another day. I think he knows that he's already, as we take a look at the replay, as they go side by side, and yes, as Simon was saying, Richard Towler gets right up there, and Happila just gives him room because I think two wrecked cars are going to finish lower down than one good car, and Ilkka Happila really has a points championship to look after, as Ben Cornett is still just floundering around in 21st position, almost a full lap down now. So Ilka now battling hard for sole possession of third place in the point standings. But Richard Towler executing a perfect textbook pass, catches the draft, and just outbreaks him into turn number 1.
Yeah, that was a fantastic move there by Towler, and also good head thinking there from Hapler as well, because he could quite easily have outbraked himself and then had to take a trip across the little picnic area that's called the grass down there at turn 1. But of course, with poor old Ben Cornett missing the start and then freaking out at the checks at the start of the race before we went live, all I could read was Ben Cornett going, what the hell do I do now? Because obviously he's never found himself in that situation. I mean, he did make good progress actually, Ben Cornett, early on in the race, but he seems to now be stuck in 21st car number 6 behind Mark Payne and Gerd Hoffra, and he's coming around actually seem to be lapped by his championship adversaries.
So let's take a look, Mr. Director, to jump up to position 7 and 8. The Richard Crozier-Florian Goddard battle is very tight for the 7th position. Richard Crozier having a fantastic race in that PSR TV liveried car. Florian Goddard right behind him in the car number 16, that green and white car, versus Richard Crozier's aqua blue and white car. Florian's been giving him fits for a couple of laps now.
I think we need to get a PSR TV kind of range of fun, as here comes actually Goddard. Oh no, that's them popping a lap on Paul Richards, sorry, I was about to get my knickers in a twist over nothing. But yes, you can get a variety of different coloured liveries in the PSR TV logo, which I think we should put available for people to download and enjoy.
Yeah, I think it was your jumping up and down in your proverbial chair that got your knickers in a twist, so you may have to untwist them just a little bit. Jump back to the Alfala Davies Sturgis battle for 9th, 10th, and 11th. Ray Alfala in that orange number 10 machine, orange and yellow number 10 machine, as they go past what looks like a lapped car of, I can't see who it was. It may have been Gerd Hoffra. Oh, it's Paul Richards. Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. As we take a look at Ray Alfala and Brad Davies tight in a battle for 9th position. And Jake Sturgis in that yellow and black number 5 machine just behind him, not too far out of this battle. But right now, Ray Alfala really having to fight hard to keep Brad Davies. Oh, and Ray Alfala, as he goes into turn number 6, makes a mistake. Let's see if Brad Davies can capitalize on it. Alfala is not going to get the speed that Davies is going to have coming down Holman straightaway.
Not at all. Davies, though, is trying to go down the outside. He's braked ever so slightly later. Alfala's trying to keep the line. There's contact between the two. Alfala gets the wobble on, and he's off onto the grass, and that's not the best way to go. And oh, just for good measure, he's going to clout Ryan Murray's car. And, well, that's one way to get your girlfriend some airtime, but not the best way. So, poor old Ryan Murray, they're in all the wrong places.
Yeah, so, yeah, what it looked like is Ray Alfala lost some speed in his exit to turn number 7. The Brad Davies car got side by side with him, and then Brad Davies tried that unlikely outside maneuver there, but that would have kept him on the inside for turn number 9, and I think that was what his thinking was. So Alfala just completely messed up and sort of did a little lawnmower racing out there in turn number 9. When he came back on, he tagged wheel to wheel with Ryan Murray in that Inside Sim Racing and Rachel Biocco machine, that black and red machine.
Oh, and Ryan Murray now, obviously that must have affected his handling of salts, because he keeps getting little tank slappers on coming out of the corner, especially there down at turn 4, and he is really struggling to hold David Seroy with Mauro Bisegli there, or Biselay, sorry, keeping a watching brief, waiting for it all to fall apart again. This is all over 13th, 14th, and 11th, and 12th as well.
Yeah, David Serwa, one of the other members of Team Orion, chasing down the Ryan Murray machine as they head into turn number 9. This is that weird, tight section that everybody thought that they were going to need low downforce or high downforce for, but it turns out that at least Richard Towler, anyway, from what I know of his setup, they are running almost minimum rear wing to maximize their speed down this straightaway. As we take a look at the Brad Davies. Oh, so Ryan Murray is going to pit.
I think
Ryan Murray pits.
so upset maybe that the fact that if he'd have put his girlfriend's name on the side pod, too many people would be burning rubber up against her name, which is not going to be the best way to advertise of things. But that's going to be just about in enough time to actually fill it up and go all the way to the end of the race. So that's not too much of a bad, uninspired decision now.
But it looks like the Alfala car may have a problem too, because David Sirwa just passed Ray Alfala like he was sitting still into turn number 4. And it looks like David Sirwa, Mauro Basellier now looks like he's sniffing around the rear end of the Ray Alfala machine as they head into the turn number 7.
Yeah, Alfala there, when he pushes the accelerator down, the rear end always wants to wobble out like he's trying to do some kind of fashion parade and wobble his tush. And Mauro Basellier there is got much better on the acceleration more than the braking of the corners. And that could, if he gets a nice clean push out of this corner that we're coming out of now, that will give him good effect all the way down the straight to get into the slipstream and then take a dive down into turn 1.
So let's take a look at Ray Alfala being chased.
Oh, Baseglier's in.
And Basellier hit the pits. So on lap number 36, we're beginning to see some people's second stop. So it looks like some of these guys short-filled on their first pit stop, and they're going to go longer here for the final run. This 24-lap run here, so they looks like they went in at 24 and 34. Some of the drivers taking a short middle stint.
Almost like a sprint. Here's Ben Cornette down in P20. He's about to do a move on somebody though, and that's Mark Payne, who's been in all kinds of pain all race, to be honest. And Cornette, is he going to go down the outside? Yes, he is. Mark Payne has no confidence down into turn 1 to try to go into the inside lane. Oh, sorry, the inside line of that corner so tightly that Cornette just gobbles him up down the outside, and that's him now into 18th position. Payne down to 19. And Sean Purdy trying to get round the two of them to put a lap on, and this is dropping Sean Purdy quite dramatically off now. He's 3.8 behind Towler and 1.5 behind teammate Hapler.
Those guys need to realize that Sean Purdy is one of the leaders, and they need to move over and let him by, and it looks like Mark Payne does that. But we also know that Ben Cornette has the speed to stay in front of Sean Purdy if he wants to.
See, if I were Ben Cornette, what I'd do, I'd let Sean Purdy through and then just tuck behind his rear wing, and then when everyone moves out of the way for Purdy, just slide down behind them, and then people won't realise that he's actually in the battle with them, and they might accidentally move over and let him through as well, thus gaining lots of potentially good places.
Yeah, and what we're seeing here is actually the battle for 4th place in the points. Sean Purdy currently occupying 5th, but Ben Cornette 4th, and they are only 6 points apart. So Sean Purdy knowing this, Sean Purdy is now going to go around the outside of Ben Cornette, probably taking your advice, but let's see if Ben Cornette can stay close enough to maximize some of the draft when they get back around to the turn 12-13 straightaway. And this is a really good fight for position between these two of Ben Cornette and Mark Payne. This is a classic Team Red Line, Team Podium Assault. Mark Payne, a Team Podium Assault member. Ben Cornette, a teammate to Gregor Huttu.
Both effectively out of position as well. Remember, Mark Payne was much higher up earlier on when we had the first kind of problems down in turn 1, and Ben Cornette forgot to take the start of the grid altogether, so both are trying to burn their way up from the back of the field and doing not too much of a bad job. Next up on their list is Daniel Almeida and Scott Michaels, who are busy going around the final corner now, so they've got about 10 seconds to make up tops, 5 seconds to make up tops, and then they'll be up for the next battles.
Scott Michaels' brother to Sam Michaels, who both actually very, very good sim racers in their own right. They were started off very young, not too very long ago, but actually making their presence known in the sim racing world. I know that they're a member of a couple of very high-profile leagues. Currently, Scott Michaels in 15th, now behind the number 22 car of Andrea Baldi. Actually, just now actually, that's not the number 22 of Andrea Baldi. That's 22 of Matt Sintel. And it looks like Scott carrying a little bit of damage on his front left wing. But as we begin to circulate on lap number 40, let's take a look at the order once more. Richard Towler now beginning to put a little distance on Ilka Happala. Richard Towler in first, Ilka Happala in second, Sean Purdy in third position. Gregor Huttu now up to fourth, beginning to come up on some back markers. Once again, Blake Townend having a fantastic run in fifth position. Ian Lake sixth. Richard Crozier still in seventh place. Florian Goddard in eighth position with right behind Richard Crozier, mind you. Brad Davies now, actually, as we go through the field, let's take a look. Mr. Director, number 24, Brad Davies, just getting around the Florian Goddard car to take eighth position. And to round out the top 10, Jake Sturgis.
Yeah, Florian Goddard actually just a couple of corners before we picked that up had completely ran wide into the kind of Mickey Mouse 6 and 7 turns, and Davies just drove completely round the outside of him to take the lead and get more straight line speed down that mini back straight. So another position up for Brad Davies.
Florian Goddard
work out for him earlier on.
Florian Goddard hailing from France, from Villeneuve-Saint-Georges, France, racing for the iReviews.net car with PSR TV logos as well. But it looks like Brad Davies putting some distance as we pass that one tipped over orange cone. That's one of the things that got modeled during the laser scan. That first cone into turn one is knocked over, and it's permanently knocked over. I just find that pretty humorous. But Brad Davies pretty much passing Florian Goddard fairly easily and now beginning to put some distance on him.
Richard Crozier is only about 1.5 seconds up the road, so Brad Davies obviously lost out heavily in the first round of pit stops, ready to make himself be known again. And Crozier has been very quiet and effective this race, up into 7th.
So we're getting some more words of some more pit stops. It looks like Andrea Baldi is in the pits from 14th position. It looks like possibly Ryan Murray. No. Ray Alfala just pitted. See if we can get a word of anybody else. So this is going to shuffle the order once again as we wait to see if our leader Richard Towler has evenly split this race into three parts. Well, I guess on lap 42, that theory's already out the window.
We've still got 28 runners actually, with Robinson Shield still ringing up the rear 3 laps down. George Sandman is 2 laps down in 27, with Jaroslav Honzik also in his first race in 26, 2 laps down. Kept himself out of trouble and has done quite a nice little job so far.
You got through that name amazingly quickly. There are now only 11 cars on the lead lap, so David Serrois in 11th place is currently the last of the runners. Team Orion car of David Serrois, the number 13 machine. So let's take a look. It looks like there was a spin right in front of Richard Towler. I don't know who it was, but it's probably a back marker. Let's see if we can figure out who it is. It was Paul Richards, the Paul Richards car. Yes, as he now begins to come back on and almost hits Ben Cornett as he comes by. Mark Payne gets around him.
Got to be quick because Matt Santel is for position with him, I believe. And Santel's got much more momentum going on, but Paul Richards is able to just about hold the place. And if he gets a few corners together, gets his tyre temperatures up, he should be all right with that. But Matt Santel is another man, again, out of position through various excursions and orienteering sessions off into the grass.
So Gregor Huttu actually doesn't quite catch up on that as the leader passes the pit one more time. Gregor Huttu now still running in 4th position. And Gregor Huttu hits the pits. Gregor Huttu now in the pits from 4th position. Let's take a look at his pit stop, if you would, please. The number 2 machine. Gregor Huttu. Let's see where he's going to come out. This is going to be important for his ability to get out in the open and turn some fast laps to try and close that distance between Sean Purdy. But I have to admit, 21 seconds, I don't think he's going to do it. Currently, if he finishes in 4th position during the, if we finish the way we are now, as they say on TV, Richard Towler would actually make up 12 points on him. If you take a look at the drops, that would close him within 115 points of first place. As we see Gregor Huttu now leave the pits. I'm going to jump up and take a look at Richard Towler. Let's see if he hits the pits this time by. No, he does not. He passes pit in. But he has put now 2.7 seconds on Ilkka Happila. Sean Purdy now 5 seconds behind that at 7.5 seconds behind Richard Towler. So the leader's beginning to fan out just a little bit.
Somewhere along the line, Brad Davies has dropped behind Florian Goddard and Jake Sturjoys as well in the battle over 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th. So I don't know what Brad's been up to, but he must have been off getting his Flymo out and taking a quick detour. As in fact, Richard Crozier, car 20 in P6, dives into the pits and actually nearly collects himself into the pit lane. Brad Davies follows him in as well, so that'll be a nice battle in the pit lane. See who wins out on that one.
So as we cycle through pit stops here, the iRacing Drivers World Championship coverage here on PSR TV. Definitely, if you're new to this, what we are looking at is internet sim racing. It's internet-based racing. All of these people in all of their homes around the globe with their store-bought wheels. Some of them a little more expensive than others. Some of them a little nicer, but it always is good fun. They get together. iRacing.com. Definitely, if you'd like to do this, you start off. There's always some sort of start-up introductory special for $5 for the first 30 days or something along those lines. Take a look at it. Go to iRacing.com and sign up if you have not. There are some fantastic things on the horizon. That's a constant development going on that iRacing every 12 weeks updates and adds new features and new things, new cars and new tracks to their giant stable already. But you don't have to do road racing if you're an oval racer, or if you're a fan of oval racing. If you want to try it, you can start off in the Legends cars and go on up to the Impala cars and race on the super speedways. It's the one way to do it. These guys, a lot of these guys, race both the oval race and the road course series. In fact, Richard Towler is the second place point scorer in both of them currently. But if you have any interest in doing this, definitely go check out iRacing.com. Sign up and see what you think.
Richard Towler's popping into the pits, our race leader on lap 46. That hands the lead over to Happila, who stayed out, as has Sean Purdy in third, although he's now dropped some 6 seconds off of our leaders anyway. And this could be the opportunity, if Happler's able to do it, to just kind of push in a couple of real quick laps, but I don't think he's quite got the pace in him to do it today now.
I don't think he does, and I think it was a mistake for Happila to stay out. I think when, one of the rules of racing, one of the unwritten rules of racing is to really do what the leader does. And if Ilkka may have been surprised by the fact that Towler dove into the pits, but I think Ilkka, considering the mistake that Towler made the last time he was entering the pits, I think his best bet would have been to really follow Towler into the pits and just do what Towler does to maintain that gap. Now Ilkka has one more lap to possibly get tangled up with lap traffic or any number of mistakes that can happen during this race, especially since he was proven to really not have the pace here in the late stages of the race.
David Siroy is into the pits, as is Ilkka Happila. Just off your screens as well, Andrea Baldi put a move on Real Falla for 20th, but here comes Happila in, so one lap is certainly not enough to close in that 2.7 second gap. The only time I'd ever recommend staying out longer is if you can see and you know roughly how long you're going to be in the pit lane for, you can kind of recycle down the list to see who's where on the track. And if you know you're going to come out into traffic, then that's obviously not the time to come in. But Happler's not going to have won out on this, and this gives Sean Purdy a lead for the first time this race.
And I think, once again, that Sean Purdy is proof of that. If we take a look at number 3, the Sean Purdy machine that's actually in the lead, he is now stuck in traffic behind the number 13 machine. I believe, or maybe it was the number 33. I apologize if I get that wrong. It may have been the number 33 machine of Jan Ziliakis.
It was Aurelio Leonetti that was in the way, but he's moved over and let all kinds of cars through now. But yeah, as I was saying there, Sean Purdy has stayed out in a heat load of traffic. He done a 1:14.5 last time by. He's looking like he's coming in this time, but that was 1 lap too late for Sean. And if he's lost a couple of seconds there, that's a couple of seconds he's going to be giving to Gregor Huttu, who's been almost in clear traffic all the time. Although, having said that, he was busy trying to catch and get round Florian Goddard at one point.
Yeah, so if you're just joining us, Gregor Huttu, the runaway points leader in the championship currently, who was brought to the United States by iRacing to do some secret covert operation, is now racing on somebody else's gear in somebody else's house in some undisclosed location. So not able to really get used to the equipment fast enough, or really had no testing time possibly, could be the culprit. Gregor Huttu started his race down in 10th position, worked his way up to actually lead half a lap earlier during the pit stop exchange at the first pit stop cycle, and now running in 5th position as he passes the start-finish straightaway. Is having to fight for his life just to maintain this race pace at all.
His undisclosed location is actually kept in a cupboard under my stairs until he releases all of his setup information to me. However, off your screens as well, Jan Ziliakis, who's done a very early second stop, has just put a move on Milos Miokovic for 14th position, going round the outside down at turn 1. I was pretty impressed with that, Jan.
So let's take a look now while we wait for all of the pit stop information to cycle back around. The standings only cycle as they pass the start-finish straightaway currently. It looks like Towler will take the lead as he passes the start-finish straightaway. Yes, he does. Of a driver whose name will be disclosed to me shortly.
So we're on lap 50. I think that's pretty much the last of the biggie stops that has been gone. So we have a quick rundown of the order, Tom.
Righto, so in the lead currently is Richard Towler, has now taken the lead back during the pit stop exchange. Ilka Happela running 3. Position. Blake Townend in 6th. Florian Goddard having a fantastic race in 7th position. Richard Crozier now in 8th, having Florian Goddard must have passed him during the pit stop exchange. We didn't see that. We apologize. Brad Davies, the oval points leader, currently now right on the tail of Richard Crozier. As we take a look at that fight for 8th position between Richard Crozier and Brad Davies. And rounding out the top 10, Jake Sturgis.
Oh yes, Florian Goddard actually was one of the last people to pit, so I think by staying out longer he somehow managed to actually leapfrog Crozier and has done a very good job. As you watch that battle with Davis on your screen, I'll just run through the rest of the runners and riders. Scott Michael in 11th place, that's very good for him indeed. David Seroy is 12th, then 1 lap down Mauro Bisegli 13, Jan Ziliakis 14, Miloš Miokovic 15, Andrea Baldi 16, Ryan Murray 17, Daniel Almeida 18, Areo Falla 19, Ben Cornett 20, and here comes Brad Davies there immediately pulling to the inside, possibly a little bit too early, but he's got so much more straight line speed down the straight. He's going to be able to pull across before turn 1. Indeed he does, and that's very much saying yoink, I'll have the racing line, thank you very much. Brad Davies up into 8.
So as we watch Brad Davies now getting to reel in Florian Goddard, it looks like this may be a difference in downforce, or at least in gearing for Brad Davies. One thing that Towler and I discussed last night during practice was that, like I mentioned earlier, he's running technically a five-speed gearbox with 6th gear only being used for the draft, if he actually catches himself in the draft. So I wonder if Brad Davies is doing the same thing. I know Richard Towler really does a fantastic job of sharing his setup with anybody who asks for it. So Brad Davies may be Brad Davies may have gotten that from Richard Towler, or at least gotten the idea of that for Richard Towler, because they were in a practice session together last evening.
So that would really confuse me, because I'd really be looking for 6 gears so that I could have better acceleration out of the slower corners, out of all the Mickey Mouse ones. So I'd go a completely different route. Strange.
Well, he was saying that he had to go to a really low rear differential setting. So I believe that made it so he could keep 5th gear as the longest gear in his package, and thus being able to take that 6th gear is basically what would be considered an overdrive gear. Although I don't know that that's actually possible. I've not tried hard enough to set these cars up. I've only driven them a couple of times for introductory purposes. There's too much going on for me to try and be a master at setting up these cars, and I know these guys really work hard. And that was one thing that early on in the session, these guys were talking about, that it's a real setup track. This is a track that's really going to be require an interesting sort of setup, and I believe we see a lot of different setups coming along here. A lot of people with low downforce and some people with high downforce setups and different gearing. So that's probably the difference between a lot of these drivers. If we take a look at the Ian Lake, Blake Townend battle for 5th position, as Blake Townend begins to catch that draft. Blake hits that curb with his inside left tire and goes squiggly. So he's going to lose a little bit of time to Ian Lake.
Just off your screens, and albeit all the way down in 19th and 20th, Ben Cornette has just rammed Ray Alfalla off down at turn 1, and the two of them have gone skipping across the grass. Both are still running though.
All right, let's see if I don't know if we're going to see a replay of that, but Ben Cornette actually on the outside of Ray Alfalla down the front straightaway, not giving Alfalla, sort of crowding Alfalla to the wall, and Alfalla, in an attempt to try and make the turn 1, started to go to his left a little bit and bumped wheels with Ben Cornette, and it looks like both of those drivers have escaped out of this event. Ben Cornette now will lose position in the championship to Sean Purdy almost for sure now.
Yeah, Ray Alfalla has decided to soldier on, but that really does have some championship implications. It's just not been Ben Cornette's evening at all, as Blake Townend has a little look at Ian Lake for 5th and 6th position, cars 21 and 23. 40 seconds down off the lead. They're 14 behind who can't collect them, and the Goddard, David, Crozier and Sturjoy battle rages on 13 seconds behind. So once again we've got these little clutches of cars all battling it out.
Yeah, as we kind of predicted that what's happening is the draft is enabling a lot of these cars to get closer than they normally would. Let's take a look at the Davies-Goddard fight right now as they head through turn 5 into turn number 6. This little infield squiggly. So the Brad Davies number 24 car, position number 8, Florian Goddard the number 16. Brad Davies, who really put a pass on Richard Crozier fairly easily just a few laps ago, has now caught up to the Florian Goddard car, that green and white PSR TV iRacing iReviews.net machine. Need to start putting a quarter in the jar every time I say machine now. I've gotten beyond that. Check that. So let's check in on the Gregor Huttu machine, the number 2 machine of the championship points leader, Gregor Huttu, in 4th place as he goes around what looks like the Matt Sintel car again.
That's 2 quarters in that one sentence there, Tom.
Darn it. Gregor Huttu, the points leader. Now, it was a three-stage kind of season. Everybody was excited. Let's see what Gregor Huttu was going to do in the first third of the season. The second third of the season was, oh, this is terrible. Gregor Huttu's going to win again. Oh, no, this is boring. Then it got to just recently, let's see if Gregor Huttu can win them all. So now it looks like Gregor Huttu is actually going to not win them all. Gregor Huttu is going to be able to only manage the best 17 out of these 18 races.
Oh dear. Sorry, Ian Lake has just lost out to Blake Townend down in turn 1. Just as I was about to say, actually, Richard Towler will be the first driver to win in both the road edition and the oval edition of the Drivers' World Championships, and that would be no mean feat whatsoever. It takes a lot to go around in circles, as we say here in Europe, but that's key for 5th position there. Blake Townend diving down the inside. Ian Lake was very, very determined, however, gave him just enough room, and that was great respect between those two. That's one of the most impressive moves I've seen so far today, and there's been quite a few. So let's have a quick rundown of the order with just 4 laps pretty much left to go now. Richard Towler leads by 2.7 seconds from Ilka Hapler, and between Ilka Hapler and Dom Doohan, I think we've got the next generation of sim racing bubbers sorted out, I think. Sean Purdy is 3rd, Gregor Huttu all by myself in 4th, Ian Lake 5, Blake Townend now 5, Ian Lake 6, and is trying to have a look to go back through again, but not been able to do it this time. Florian Goddard is 7, just holding off Brad Davies, and that's something we should cut to, Mr. Director. Car 24, because Brad Davies there has managed to have to push Florian Goddard so defensive that he's now wrong-footed for turn 1. Can Davies go around the outside? Not this time, but I don't think we'll see the end of that too soon. They've dropped Richard Crozier, who's got Jake Sturd going all over the curbs, round in 10.
Jake the Steak rounding out the top 10, as it looks like Florian Goddard, as he was heading into turn number 1, knocks over that one orange cone there for us all. So continuing on the standings, David Serrois in 11th position, Mauro Vassilier in 12th, Jan Ziliakis in 13th, Andrea Baldi in 14th, Daniel Almeida in 15th, Scott Michaels having a good showing this race in 16th, Ryan Murray back down to 17th. That's a really bad showing for Ryan Murray, hoping that his new Sim Racing Tonight and Rachel Biaco car could have had a better showing than that, but he is in 17th. Mark Payne, Team Podium Assault teammate to Ryan, in 18th. Ray Alfala in 19th. And Milos Milkovic in 20th.
Then, last of the one lap down runners is Gerd Hoffler, who's just hunted down Milokovic in 20th. Then 2 laps down is Aurelio Leonetti, Jaroslav Honjic, and Paul Richards. 3 laps down is George Sandman and Matt Santel. And Robinson Shields, although he may well have been the man who almost got in the way and changed the race, he is still running. 4 laps down. He's going to pick up his first finish on debut, so not bad at all there for Robinson, who's now going so far to stay out of the way. He's almost looking pay drivery-ish, but better to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely. He was being a little careful as he came in earlier during the first pit stop in front of Richard Towler. It cost Richard Towler the lead early on, but I believe Richard Towler now during the second pit stop exchange managed to get that back. Let's note 1 second that it seems like Ilka Hapla might be reeling in, although we are now on with just a little over a lap to go. Ilka Hapla only 2.5 seconds back from Richard Towler. As we take a look, Richard Towler now in the lead. Ilka Hapla only 2.4 seconds back. Sean Purdy now a distant 3rd. Coming up in 2 weeks, mind you, on 2 weeks from tonight, one of the earlier calendars showed like we were going to go to Brands Hatch, but I think they've replaced that now. What we are going to is the Watkins Glen International Circuit in 2 weeks, as Richard Towler tries to make it 2 in a row. So definitely tune in to PSRTV.com at 6 p.m. 2 weeks from tonight. Don't forget, Tuesday night is the Oval Racing Series, as Richard Towler chases Brad Davies for the lead of the Oval Racing Championship.
Familiar names.
As we watch, so we take a look at Richard Towler down the Holman straightaway into turn number 8 for the final time. Through my booth mate has been calling Mickey Mouse section the entire race, and I tend to agree with him.
Definitely. I think today is a little history, and I'm glad you've all taken the opportunity to watch it with us here today.
So, out of turn number 12, down through turn number 13, Richard Towler is going to do what nobody thought that anybody could do, and that is beat Gregor Huttu to the checkered flags for the first time this season. The first World Championship driver to win in both the Oval and the Road Course Series. Richard Towler, the winner of the iRacing Drivers World Series Championship Indianapolis Grand Prix, and he is going to do some burnouts for us down there at the end of pit lane. And as he should, he really should celebrate. Ilka Hapla now comes in second position. Sean Purdy will be scored in third. Gregor Huttu fourth. Gregor Huttu will now cross the line right there. Blake Townend in fifth. Ian Lake in sixth. It must be noted now that there was an accusation for Richard Towler cutting that final turn on his fastest lap in qualifying. So we will see what our race steward Shannon Whitmore will rule on this. They may take his fastest lap away, or they may penalize him, or they may take the win away. I'm not really sure how they're going to do that, and I hate to speculate it because there was a big stink the last time they did that as well. So Richard Towler, the winner here at Indianapolis, as Brad Davies comes in seventh. Florian Goddard will be scored a fantastic 8th position for him. Richard Crozier in 9th, and Jake the Steak in 10th.
He's our last unlapped runner. I know Richard Towler's got Whiskey River. I assume that's a real whiskey, and I'm sure he'll be drinking plenty of that this evening to celebrate his win. Just to run down the rest of the order: 1 lap down, David Cyril 11, Moreover Staley 12, Jan Ziliakos, a superb drive to 13th, Andrea Boldi, also a great drive to 14, Daniel Almeida 15, Scott Michaels excellent 16, Ryan Murray 17, dogged drive, same for Mark Payne in 18, and Gerd Hoffer in 19. Ralph Fallow was 20th, beating home Milov Miokovic into 21st. Aurelio Leonetti was 2 laps down, 22nd. Yaroslav Honzik, 23rd, 2 laps down. Paul Richards eventually recovering from the Long Murraying expedition to 24, 2 laps down. 3 laps down, George Sandman was 25 with Matt Sintell 26. Robinson Shields was 27, 4 laps down. And then the retirements: Ben Cornett, Alice Simunek, Derek Wood, Darren Marsh, Dion Burgess, Matteo Calistani, and John Prather.
So we saw history made for the first season, the inaugural season of the iRacing Drivers World Championship Road Course. Gregor Huttu actually was not able to pull it off, although, in all fairness, to sit down at somebody else's computer in somebody else's house in somebody else's country with somebody else's wheel to come in 4th position, considering the company that he keeps here at the iRacing Drivers World Championship, I have to really take my hat off to him, because Gregor Huttu still to pull out 4th from qualifying 10th will give him, only have him lose 12 points to Richard Towler. I think there are kudos involved here with Gregor Huttu, but the big story is Richard Towler finishing first, and we will see what the stewards rule on that. Certainly to take a look at the iRacing.com community forums that will probably be a big announcement of that at some point. And the fact that Ben Cornett, that Ben Cornett got tangled up in the start and had to start from pit lane, will lose the 3rd place position in the points to. Sorry about that. will be the 4th place position in the points to Sean Purdy and Team Orion now. So Team Redline in first, Richard Towler in second as an independent driver, a former Team Redline driver. But now the resurgence of Team Orion into the 3rd and 4th position is looking very good for that team.
Oh, that's fantastic. Remember, you can join us, of course, in 2 weeks' time for this edition. We've got the ovals coming up later on in the week, but we're off to Watkins Glen on the 18th of September for just a 3rd last race remaining. I can't believe we've done 15 already. Seems like we only started yesterday.
Right, so in 2 weeks, definitely tune in to PSR TV. Take a watch of the iRacing Drivers World Championship and see if Towler can do it again at Watkins Glen. I would imagine that Gregor Huttu getting back in his own equipment back at home will certainly give him the advantage once again. All right, so any final words, Simon?
How refreshing is all I'm going to say to that. Although it's been fantastic to have seen an 18 out of 18, there's something inside me is a little bit warm and happy that it's not quite gone that way, and that gives us hope. I think maybe it might just be the unsettling stable block for a little closeout with 3 to go, where it becomes a anyone for anything event.
And I would agree that it was refreshing to see a lot of close racing at this track that everybody really didn't have the highest hopes for. Ilka Hapla, Richard Towler, both prior to the race were not comfortable with where their cars were. But I think it got more comfortable once they realized that Gregor Huttu was starting in 10th position. All of a sudden, they got a little bit more comfort, underneath their seats, and really sat down and got the job done. So, on behalf of the entire PSR TV crew, definitely check us out on Twitter at twitter.com/PSRTV. Go to the PSRTV.com/archives section and download this race. It will be up within the next couple of hours. But on behalf of the entire crew, Zach, Ian, Chuck, PJ, and Simon Smith, I'm Tom Beatty for PSR TV.